it's a common man who is taking a loan. देखो डेवलपर को चिंता होती है, ऐसी बात नहीं है कि he doesn't care about the common man.
ऐसा नहीं.
Because the reputation is at stake. You must understand that we do understand that a builder is worried कि एक प्रोजेक्ट तो मैंने गले पे पहना दिया, माल काट लिया. आप लोग जैसे जिस लैंग्वेज में बोलते हो.
Builders are making a cartel here.
देखो. They are in a round table.
Cartels.
Yes. But it will come to square one eventually. And that is this that. मैंने अभी किसी ने बहुत अच्छी लाइन सुनाई थी अबाउट अ कॉमन मैन कि पहले हम कहते थे कोई अपने पाँव छूता था तो कहते थे मेरी उम्र तुम्हें लग जाए. अब ये कहते हैं कि मेरी EMI की उम्र तुम्हें लग जाए. खत्म ही नहीं होता, जिंदगी खत्म हो जाती है, EMI खत्म नहीं होती. वो बढ़ते 14 साल 15 साल 25 साल 30 साल टेलीस्कोपिक पता नहीं मे बी लाइफ टाइम EMI जैसा भी कोई कंसेप्ट आ जाएगा इवेंचुअली बिकॉज ऑफ दिस डिलेस. तो देयर इज अ रिसीवर, जो बायर है, जो एंड यूजर है, वो भी फंसता है इसमें, डेवलपर भी फंसता है विद हिज मनी. सो द प्रॉब्लम इज ही हैज टू रिलीज हिज मनी, समहाउ ही हैज टू गेट आउट ऑफ इट. दैट्स द रीजन वी आर हियर टू डिस्कस. बट द क्वेश्चन इज you are stuck with your money and now you want more money for some other project. You need funding, you want to build एक ही lifetime ज़्यादा से ज़्यादा project करने हैं. Where will you get the money from? So the question is the money, the source. And that is banks choke RBI ने कर दिया है. आपके पास पैसे लेकिन आप डरे हुए हो, इन्वेस्ट नहीं करना चाहते. कॉमन मैन हाँ प्रॉब्लम तो मत करिए. तो आपका पैसा भी गया. गवर्नमेंट ने RBI बैंकों को तो एकदम दला दबा के रखा है, इनको मत देना. ठीक है. हाँ तो बचा FDI में भी they are trying to limitations and so. How do you look at it, Naj?
I think there's a lot the government can do, and few of them have been touched upon. First is relaxation of FDI is very, very important. Second is relaxation of ECB, very important. Third is we touched upon single window clearance, big challenge for developers today. We need that single window clearance. Fourth, we spoke about the various taxes, sales tax, service tax, excise duty on construction material. All that can bring down the cost by 20 to 25% depending on which state you are in. Fifth is there's been a lot of talk about bullet trains, high-speed rail connectivity between cities. If that can really become a reality. Today, why don't people want to go stay in Virar, Vasai and all this? Only because of the distance. If that can become fast, then affordable housing can really become a reality. So the government needs to invest in rail, in sewerage, in water, in power, and really connectivity to between.
In continuation, Dr. Swarupji, आप बता रहे थे the solutions. Can you please go ahead again with that same thing?
जो solutions आपको दिए थे वो ये 7 problems के लिए 7 solutions थे. बाकी जो regulatory issues हैं वो इतने लंबे हैं कि we can continue talking about it.
You need the whole day.
Not only you need the whole day. I think the purpose of this particular assembly is to let the new government in New Delhi know that what all they can do at this moment. And especially, many of the issues are state-related subject. जहाँ पर भी हम उनको अभी तक अपने साथ में लाने के बाद नहीं कर रहे हैं. So therefore, I think some generic things will have to be done. Number one, regulatory framework definitely does require certain changes, and this is being spoken about for quite some time. Precious little has been done. But let us go with the kind of real thing that who's going to build it actually and who's going to make it for you. The manpower is simply not available. They need to be prepared. If you don't do that, then 6 times छोड़िए 1/3 भी नहीं कर पाइएगा और नहीं होगा. Now there are certain initiatives which are being taken, but it has to basically turn into some kind of a serious initiative with everyone who's connected, because there's a lot that I think the builders group can do themselves. I can come into details later on. Prefabrication, pre-engineering, this is definitely the order of the day. You cannot continue doing in situ construction anymore. If you do that, possibly it is not going to happen, the quantum of work. Then recycling of construction material or waste for basically making the smart materials. That is another area that we have to work in. And this is all where central government can really enact certain regulations. As a matter of fact, when we were talking about environment ministry, there is another side to it. One is, of course, putting an embargo on someone who's working near Methi River, which is nothing but a nala. At the same time, the second thing that can be done is to impress upon organizations such as Central Public Works Department, which always wants the fresh, the river sand, knowing fully well that there is no more river sand that is available anywhere. So many specifications can be changed by the central government. That's another area that we can work. We must get into manufacturing construction products for that matter. And I think builders certainly can look into that. In any case, many of the builders do manufacture many of the components. I think it has to be given a kind of formal shape. And this is again where the government has to be told that some concessions, like we were talking about, the kind of incentives that can be given, because this is what is going to make the housing far more affordable. That's another area that we can talk about. Taxation is a very major issue, and especially the retro taxation that has now come about. You have issues related to provident fund of workers, labor laws, the cess and royalties. I think close to almost 35,000 crores of rupees is stuck with the construction workers' welfare cess with the government. That is something that can be released. Possibly some kind of subsidy can be granted to developers and contractors that build up nice camps for the workers, train them, look after them. After all, that money is just lying there. Then comes the good corporate practices. I think this is what you were talking about. So you have to have a robust corporate structure. And then there are banks who are sitting with a very, very high CD ratio. The credit basically is far low, deposits are very high, they are looking for avenues where they can invest. I wish somebody from Indian Bank Association would have been here. He possibly would have thrown light on that. You see, it is not as much the absence of money or paucity of resources which is troubling this whole thing. Ultimately, it is the willingness to accept and acknowledge the changes the way they need to be brought. So I think some kind of a paper can be prepared. I can leave behind this paper for you. Somebody can elaborate and put it to the government.
Thanks a lot for the listing out very briefly and correctly. So we spoke about the funds, we spoke about the governance, we spoke about the delays, we spoke about the affordability, we spoke about the regulations, and the last thing is that state and central working. Which Rajesh, you wanted to say something on that it is possible? Or would you like Pranali to speak on it about whether it is possible to see some results coming from center which actually affect?
Whenever I've seen that two people are responsible, things fall through the cracks. Invariably. But if you make one person responsible, state, center, whatever, it becomes different. Let me tell you one thing. Urban Land Ceiling Act. When do you think the center abolished it? And when do you think the state abolished it?
After 10 or 15 years.
Correct? So if it's going to take 15 years to implement the intention of the parliament by the states, there is something wrong. Therefore, I do feel that the entire subject of state should be split into two parts, where only the very crucial things which really borders on infrastructure is still kept with the center. But even things like the environmental ministry and all, with the guidelines prescribed by the center, should be handed over to the state. Again, most laws that we are talking about should be so clear that even a normal architect is able to interpret this. And no two architects will come up with three interpretations, but at least everybody will be on the same page. If that clarity emerges on law, on its interpretation, I think things will go really very fast. Today, if you go to Ahmedabad, you know that you can't drink. Fine, everybody accepts that, right? Because that law is well understood. But can you build something in a certain part of Mumbai? Nobody understands. And therefore there is a confusion. So clarity, consistency are the two words which are most important.
And conformity with the both is
Central and state.
power points
Yeah.
between the two. Fine. Coming back to one simple thing, developers want policies, developer wants funds, developer wants boost to the entire sector, and so easy availability of land, raw material, cheap, easy and cheap. You need raw material, you need land, you need funds. If everything is given to you,
And he needs agents like us.
pardon? Yes. So if everything is given to you, the only hope which Narendra Modi ji or a common man has it from you is that you will pass on those things to the common man, to the buyer. History is not very good about this. And you are aware of it. But I'm sure that these things will materialize into sense, because he said a couple of very important things, both of them, that technology, what Mr. Dr. Swarup said and you said, is breaking the subject into central and state to be differentiated and taking the model of the foreign countries about the other things, and as you said, FSI to be compared with Singapore and Hong Kong and other things to be implemented here. Considering the population, the demography, the style of city that we have, Bombay or Delhi or Pune for that matter, it is difficult for, I feel, this is my personal view of course, that it will be difficult not only for you and us, for them also, how to get the way out of it. So maybe there are 100 cities outside these metro cities where you will get all these things what you need, maybe at the reasonable rates, but then we need to convey to the center for this. So somebody told me that, and your hopes are well justified, because somebody said, I thought Modi was the surname. But then I came to know that Modi means master of developing India. So let's hope that happens. And in summing up, I would just say, ab ki baar, real estate ka udhar. And for you, sir, for you, sir, real estate is like a boxing ring. You are not declared defeated when you fall down. You are declared defeated when you refuse to get up. And that's what I believe, that people like you and Jito and other people will see to that the real estate industry does not go down in doldrums and in a troubling situation further down, and will get up with this encouragement, I hope, from center, and will boost again.
Can we have some questions?
Sure. Shall I make it open, or you have anything else to say on this? Fine.
One question I want to have Mr. Nair and Rajesh ji. We are talking about Vision India 2019. Now in this, affordability was the issue which was on the dais, and we all discussed on affordability. And Mr. Anshumali gave two definitions. What is affordability? I would say if we are talking of Vision India 2019, the affordability should be for a common man, lower middle class, who deserve, who are aspiring and who deserve to buy the basic need, a house. So if between the two of you, if you can suggest some measures or solutions for this. Thank you.
If you look at the entire population base in India, less than 1% of the people actually have more than 5 lakh rupees more as their annual household income. Just 1%. And more than 2 lakhs, it's I think around 5%. So what we need definitely is that category of 300 square feet homes, where 300 square feet into 1,500 rupee sale price, which is like a 4.5 lakh rupee home. Some states have shown, in Gujarat has done a very good job in that. Some states in South have done a good job in that. And that's what will cater to those 24.5 million units of, for that, obviously land cost, like I mentioned, has to be in that 300 rupees range. Construction cost of around 800-900 rupees. and profits of around 200-300 rupees. It's still a profitable business. I would disagree with Mr. Vardhan when he said that there's no margins in that business. Still there is a 20-25% margin in that business if economies of scale can be used. But the government needs to, in one sentence, today what the government does is, what they're supposed to do is enable, enforce and equip. But the only thing the government does is actually enforce. They don't enable and equip. So I think these are the 3 E's required from the government going forward.
Thank you.
Any other
Rajesh,
questions?
would you like to add something?
What Rajesh mentioned earlier also, whenever we are planning for further cities or the extended cities like Sidco when came, they have become developers. They want highest price. They have acquired the property at the minimum cost. And now the rate at which they are selling, so the cost of acquisition of the developer is too high. So how can they give affordable housing? So new areas has to be marked, first thing, for keeping in future further 100 years. In the same 70% area can be marked for 300 to 400 square feet, which can be even really in an affordable segment. So planning of the scheme has to be marked that from this area you are going to earn this much only. In the rest, 30 to 40% you do your good business. So both the things have to be taken care. And I think so it can be possible with the proper
Like
implementation.
what you do it in redevelopment projects, like you do it for rehabilitation,
Perfect.
then it's a marketable thing for yourself to recover and make
So additional FSI for sale, so it can be given. Rental housing scheme came, government announced it, people were ready to construct 300 square feet. So many proposals came, only 1 or 2 proposals got sanctioned, rest all the policy has been stopped.
Any other questions? Yes, sir.
My question is for Mr. Vakil. We just spoke about Deepak Parekh 25 million housing. We cannot manufacture the land. We have not discussed about the Land Act. Other day, Mr. Nitin Gadkari mentioned that he also was confused about the Land Act. He said that we have called all the chief ministers of the states and also the finance ministers. But we are all depending on Mr. Jaitley before the parliament budget comes. The enactment of the act. The entire country, we have been focusing about Bombay, but the entire country, 125 crore people require the houses. The largest challenge for the budget and the requirement differs. My question only limited to you is, what is the Land Act now and what is the Land Act for acquisitions from the farmers will require for amendment?
Well, let me be frank about it. It's a very bad act. It's an act which is regressive. It's going to discourage industries from acquiring more land. There is no rationale which has been explained for why you should pay twice the ready reckoner rate or 4 times the established circle rate. There is no logic in this. Are you trying to tell the people that all the rates which exist in the government books today are not representative of the real rates because of the cash element? Is that the message you are trying to give? So therefore, I do feel that that entire act needs a second look. You will have to get away from the popular, good sounding words in the act by which as if you are kind of doing all that you want to for the farmers. But if you want to encourage development, like you said, Modi, right? If you want industries to come forward and take more land, you will have to have a friendly litigation, friendly legislation, where there are minimum of litigations and maximum of clarity that we talked about.
I see a hope in this, that there was a land acquisition bill. That acquisition word has to be dropped, I believe, or they are trying to, by saying that we are going to form a land use policy. That land use word has got a very interesting interpretations, that it could be acquisition, it may not be an acquisition. That's what I'm reading between the lines here. Any other questions? Yes.
My question is to Rajesh. Rajesh ji, actually government should take us as a creator and motivate us by giving more FSI, more incentive, because we are a creator. If you will see the past, what socially image we have developed. If you see any hospital, college, school, temple, multiplex, all built by developers only. If the landmark अगर बनाना है मुंबई सिटी को तो डेवलपर ही बनाने वाले हैं, because कोई गोल्ड वाले या कोई इंडस्ट्रियलिस्ट या कोई नहीं बनाएंगे. So they should initiate and give us the good incentive, क्योंकि डेवलपर ही चाहे तो अच्छा लैंडमार्क बना सकता है जो 200 सालों तक रहेगा, और वही चाहे तो 20 साल में भी गिर सकता है. You should initiate us. So my question to Rajesh sir, कि ये करप्शन और अप्रूवल्स जो है, जिस पे 50% कॉस्ट चली जाती है और बिल्डर कॉस्ट बढ़ाता है, लोग कहते हैं कि बहुत महंगा हो गया है. बेसिकली अप्रूवल्स और करप्शन, अगर वो दो चीजें नहीं हो, अप्रूवल्स हमें फास्ट मिल जाए तो 50% में हम डिलीवर कर सकते हैं.
वही तो हमने डिस्कस
तो
किया.
रेगुलेटरी बिल में राजेश जी मैं चाहूंगा किस तरह से इसको इम्प्लीमेंट कर सकते हैं, जरा इसके बारे में आप लाइट डालें.
रेगुलेटर बिल.
पहली बात है कि जो रेगुलेटरी बिल आया है उसने डेवलपर्स के ऊपर से सब रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी डाल दी है. आपको जेल होगी, आपको एक
There are two regulatory bills. Again, they are running at hand. There is one at the center and one at the state, and they are not matching. How will you change? वहाँ बदलने से यहाँ नहीं बदलेगा ना. So that is going to be a problem. Yes.
जेल होगी, ये होगा, वो होगा. आप पैसा यूज नहीं कर सकते हो, आपको सब पैसा डिपॉजिट करना पड़ेगा. पहली बात, फर्स्ट ऑफ ऑल, दे आर नॉट प्रोवाइडिंग एनी मनी टू परचेज द लैंड. राइट? If you are not allowing to purchase giving us the fund to purchase the land, how can you, when I sell, you just deposit all in the account? कैसे हो सकता है? तो there are so many practical issues. ये regulator आने के कारण कितने छोटे-मोटे बिल्डर तो गायब हो जाएंगे, जो काम ही नहीं कर पाएंगे.
So it's good.
No, it is very bad for the industry, because then it will again the cartelization. Top builders will survive. They will get fund easily. They will get contacts easily, and they will be in the market.
So even a small developer has the right to fight and have his own.
हाँ, आज खुद का घर भी बनाना है तो एक खुद की प्रॉपर्टी पे आदमी खुद बिल्डर बनता है. क्यों इतने नए बिल्डर बन रहे हैं? इसीलिए कि भाई खुद की जगह है, डेवलपर को नहीं देनी, हमको कॉन्ट्रैक्टर को अपॉइंट कर दिया, आर्किटेक्ट को अपॉइंट कर दिया. नाउअडेज तो खुल के किताब है. अब हर कोई बिल्डर के बारे में जानता है कि बिल्डर का मार्जिन क्या है. वो पहले बिल्डर के पास में प्लॉट लेके आता है तो बोलता है आप सर इतना करोगे, प्लीज गिव अस दिस मच, जो पहले नहीं ज्ञान था. तो अब तो खुली किताब है. तो ये जो कंपटीशन के टाइम में अपन कर्टेल करना चाहते हैं, आई एग्री कि जो डेवलपर रेप्यूटेड नहीं है, जिन्होंने काम नहीं किया, डिलीवर करना ही नहीं चाहते, पैसा खा के भाग गए, उनके लिए कोई पॉलिसी ला रहे हो तो बात समझ में आती है कि भाई इसको कैसे रोका जाए. लेकिन इंडस्ट्री को खाली अटकाने का काम करेंगे. जितने कानून से अपन बोले थे 54 में से परमिशन कम करो, 55th लेके आ गए. अभी रिसेंटली कोई भी सोसाइटी रीडेवलपमेंट करो तो रजिस्ट्रार की फिर एनओसी लेने जाओ. तो ये तो नए नए कानून रोज आते रहेंगे, और उसको ईच एंड एवरी रेगुलेटर और एनी पॉलिसी will be a stumbling factor in real estate.
But regulation जरूरी तो होगा ही sir. You need to have a regulatory body. Like for the telecommunication, you have TRAI, for stock you have SEBI. So for this you will have to have something. But ना पूरा unorganized sector ऐसे ही चलता रहेगा. हर चाय वाला, हर बीड़ी वाला, पान वाला बिल्डर बन के आप लोगों का नाम खराब है.
Credential लेके आओ. Class 1 developers, Class 2 developers, Class 3 developers, those who have worked, those who have got financial capacity, let the bankers satisfy. You create those aspects with the reputation. A builder has taken Class 1 certificate, he can take project more than 100 crore, 200 crore, 500 crore. So like that, and when I give an advertisement that I am a Class 1 developer, there is an authenticity with which I have been there in the industry.
Like a rating.
There is a rating with something important. Where a bankers will also certify that you can invest in this project.
Sir, the solution lies in changing the name of that act. Don't call it real estate regulation. Call it real estate promotion act. And everything will fall into place. Because the psychology will change, the approach will change, the focus will change, and the act will do what it's supposed to.
Just we want government should make responsible in this for regulatory also. Government should play a part. If government delays, then we should not punish.
Yeah, the last question probably. I actually the time is out, and should this be the last question because this can go on. So, yes.
Environmental Protection Act and also the CRZ norms. So there are CRZ 1, CRZ 2, CRZ 3, and again the laws vary. So interpretation issues, and you mentioned the part 3. So I just wanted to make a suggestion that can be taken into consideration that if we can have just one centralized Environmental Protection Act and just like uniformity in laws in terms of CRZ norms, then I guess the builders won't face that much of an issue when they want to develop a particular building, say on the CRZ. And we could just make it parallel to the norms in the US, which we could equivalent to say maritime laws, which are centralized in that country. So you can just follow that model and do like one Environmental Protection Act, which can come under the entire real estate development model which you just spoke about.
I'm done with the question. Or still is going on?
No, it was just a suggestion. So I'm just
You answered your own suggestion, like centralized. That's the operative. That's what we are all been talking about. That because there are two different. You won't believe CRZ. Maharashtra has got come up with his own CRZ norms.
Correct.
मतलब
So that's
central का तुम्हारा अलग, हमारा अलग. वो पास करो फिर हमारा पास करो. So it's not getting over anything. It's just adding to the, as Rajesh ji said, there is a 54th and then 55th permission to be needed. The problem is with the basic structure of the permission levels. And that's why it's delayed, that's why it's costlier, that's why it's unaffordable, that's why there's no funds for the projects. It's a vicious circle. I don't know how to break it. I think
completely I was just talking about it.
as you said, developers who are creators have to be destroyed to this vicious circle. The responsibility lies with them as well to destroy the vicious circle of these policies and delays. Thank you, sir. I hope Rajesh ji, he wants to ask a question. There are 2 more sessions to go. We are already late by 55 minutes plus. So, thank you very much. I hope we have tried to make it interesting and all my senior panelists here and Rajesh ji, of course, for being very honest and frank with this fraternity's representation. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Anshumali Ruparel, for conducting that session so swiftly, smoothly, and effectively. We'd like to thank our esteemed guests for gracing us with your presence at this talk today, which Mr. Ruparel has called the real state of real estate. May I call upon to give our mementos to our esteemed panelists. May I call upon Mr. Manar Kanungo on stage. Thank you, Mr. Ramesh Nair. We'd like to present you with a little something. Thank you, sir. To present our next memento, could I please invite on stage Mr. Deepen Shah. Mr. Deepen Shah will present Mr. Pranay Vakil. Yes. Next up, may we have Mr. Nemichan Sangui. May I invite next up Mr. Uday Shah. Mr. Nemichan Sangvi will present Dr. P.R. Swaroop with our memento. May we have Mr. Uday Shah on stage? Thank you, sir. Mr. Uday Shah isn't with us. May we have Mr. Dinesh?
Subodhi Gadi.
Mr. Anshumali Ruparel for that really well-rounded session. And finally, sir, could you stay with us on stage, please? Could you stay with us on stage? To please present finally Mr. Rajesh Vardhan. For being part of the Okay, thank you, sir. And now we shall take a break for a very well-deserved lunch break. We shall see you all shortly in 25 minutes as we're running short of time. So see you back in 25 minutes. Thank you. Everyone who's done with their lunch, please step inside. Shall we begin? Mr. G. Chandrasekhar, Hindu Business Line. A huge round of applause for Mr. Chandrasekhar, who is the commodities editor of the Hindu Business Line. He has an excellent understanding of the physical commodity markets and is widely followed and respected by the entire commodity ecosystem in India. A senior journalist of global repute, his editorials have a wide readership in India and overseas. Our first panelist is Dr. Gopal Naik, Professor IIM Ahmedabad. Dr. Naik completed his PhD in Agricultural Economics at University of Illinois, USA. He is now a Professor of Economics with specialization in Agricultural and Rural Development Policy at the Center for Public Policy at IIM Bangalore. Our next panelist is Mr. Bhargav Vaidya, BN and Vaidya Associates. A chartered accountant by profession, Mr. Vaidya is a member of the Gem and Jewelry Committee of FICCI and the Legal Committee, Vice Chairman of the Indian Bullion and Jewelers Association. Our next panelist is Mr. Prithviraj Kothari, Riddhi Siddhi Bullion. Mr. Kothari is a renowned name in the gold, silver and platinum bullion industry. He has been instrumental in the development of the bullion market in India. And finally, our final panelist is Mr. Arvind Narayan, Executive Director, Development Bank of Singapore. Arvind Narayan is the current India Head of Sales for Treasury and Markets with DBS Bank India. Now over to our moderator for the session to take over.
Good afternoon. I'm truly delighted to be here. We have a distinguished panel. I'm sure people outside are going to be interested once we start. Let me start by saying that, reminding you that today is the 21st of June. And you know what's the significance of 21st June? The longest day. It's called the summer solstice in English. Okay, and therefore I think your PM said, "अच्छे दिन आने वाले हैं, शायद अच्छे दिन आ गए हैं," and let this day continue to be longer and longer with bright sunshine. We have a very distinguished panel of participants who are going to share their expertise with us over the next probably half an hour, 45 minutes, 50 minutes. और मुझे ये भी कहा गया कि मैं हिंदी में बीच में बोलना चाहिए, तो बीच में मैं हिंदी में भी बोल दूंगा. तो हमारे साथ है डॉक्टर गोपाल नायक फ्रॉम बैंगलोर, a wonderful top-class academician and a student of the commodity market and Indian agriculture, agribusiness and commodity market. My friend Bhargav Vaidya for long years, all of you know is an expert in the metals market, particularly bullion. Almost everybody in the market goes and seeks his guidance. Prithviraj Kothari, of course, a businessman with a very large exposure to the bullion market, and he's again a very well-known personality. Arvind Narayan works for the DBS Bank of Singapore, but he works from Bombay and he's a forex expert. Therefore, we have एक बहुत बढ़िया एक पैनल है हमारे पास जिनका पास काफी थरो डोमेन नॉलेज जो कहा जाता है वो है. तो ऐसा पैनल आसानी से नहीं मिलेगा. Therefore, I want to urge that you ask them pointed questions, ask them inconvenient questions and draw them out over the next 30 or 40 minutes. तो मेरे पास I have a few, I just want to make some opening remarks about why are commodity markets and forex market or currency market important for India. मैं देख रहा हूँ आगे जाकर के 20, 25, 30 साल के लिए there are 7 major areas of growth in India. And these 7 major areas of growth in India will include food, second is textiles and clothing, third is energy, fourth is housing and infrastructure, fifth is healthcare, sixth is education, seventh is leisure. तो इसमें 5, 6 और 7, that is education, healthcare and leisure are services. The first 4, that is food, agriculture and food, textiles and clothing, housing and infrastructure and energy. The first 4 are commodities and commodity intensive. India's growth, economic growth over the next 25 years, year on year, is going to be commodity intensive. Commodities are going to touch our lives and they continue to touch our lives even today, but their impact on our lives is going to be greater and greater over the next 15, 20, 25 years. So commodities are going to be very critical. All of us will be in some way or the other connected with commodity markets, whether it is food and agriculture commodities or whether it's fibers, whether it's cotton or jute or silk or synthetic fibers for textiles and clothing and technical textiles, housing and infrastructure, whether it's steel, cement or base metals like aluminium, copper and nickel and zinc and lead, or energy products, whether it's crude, natural gas, coal, biofuels. All the energy products are going to be an integral part of India's economic growth story over the next 2 or 3 decades, and obviously they are going to impact us. And therefore, what is important is are our policies, the current policies relating to commodity markets, are they growth-oriented policies? Do they promote growth? Do they promote production, processing, consumption, and trade? Or are there issues with the current policy? What kind of changes, what amendments, what progressive changes do we want to see in these policies? तो एक कहा जाता है कि जो फ्यूचर्स मार्केट है वो फिजिकल मार्केट का एजेंट, एक्चुअली देयर आर 2 मार्केट्स, एक है फिजिकल मार्केट, दूसरा है फ्यूचर्स मार्केट. तो फ्यूचर्स मार्केट इज एन एजेंट ऑफ द फिजिकल मार्केट. जब तक फिजिकल मार्केट में सुधार नहीं आएगा, futures market will not be able to perform its function properly. Therefore, the first question that I'm going to ask all our participants, whether Dr. Gopal Nayak will and Dr. Nayak will probably share our views on agriculture, and of course we have Bhargav and Prithviraj. They'll share their views on the metals market, particularly on bullion. What kind of reforms do we want to see in the physical market as far as, let's start with bullion. What kind of reforms do we want to see in the bullion market? And I'm going to ask Bhargav, but before that, हम सब जानते हैं कि हमारा देश भारत दुनिया में बहुत बड़ा एक importer है और we spent 40, 50, 60 billion dollars on our imports. तो पिछले 1 साल में कई पाबंदियां लग गए हैं, restrictions लग गया है import में. And there is a customs duty now at the rate of 10%, and there is an 80-20 export, compulsory export of 20% of the import, and there are funding restrictions from the bank. Are these restrictions, are they desirable? Do they promote growth? What should be done? What should be the new paradigm to approach the bullion market in particular? This is a big question which we are asking today, and I want to start with my friend Bhargav Vaidya, who's been in this market probably for 25 years, 30 years, very long years. I'm not revealing your age, okay? going to share with us his thoughts about are the current regulations and restrictions good? Have they delivered? Do we want change? How do we have growth-oriented policies? That's the big question. Yeah.
Thank you, Chandrasekhar. My knowledge of bullion is perhaps half the number of years of yours. But anyway, thanks for asking my views. Bullion, perhaps we can use as a basic strength. You know, if you look at Saudi Arabia, it produces less than 5% of the world oil. But the health of a Saudi prince can sometimes disturb the crude prices. That sort of a control on the world bullion price and pressure on the world bullion price we can have because of our strength in consumption and the stock of bullion which we hold in our households. Maybe if you read history, 100 years ago or maybe 150 years ago, the silver prices were decided by Indian business houses, and we worked hard through legislations, and maybe some of them, because of the imperial ruler we had, that the control from India went to London. So, first, let's have free trade. Free trade means two-way free trade. Let's recognize the domestic market as an affirmative good, not a necessary evil. We are treating bullion imports as a necessary evil just now, but we have to look at it as an affirmative good. We have to see that the dead stock of bullion which is there in the household is been brought out. In the previous session, we were talking a lot that if constructions we don't get finance. It's worse in bullion. In construction, I can, camouflage something as an infrastructure, the line is too thin, or saying that the customer at least can get housing loan. While in bullion, even if you show there's one-day finance, or a bank like any of the banks gives a bullion delivery to a best customer, even like Prithviraj, and his cash balance is not there, even if he has FD or the money has not been credited to his account at that point of time, RTGS is late or something, and he can pay the interest. The bank is a defaulter in RBI accounts. This is the strictness which we have against bullion financing. So all this has to go. We have to look that we make India as a world leader, the way London is, in bullion and maybe all the metal trades. And so much so, I'll just digress a little bit to diamond, which is my main background, that we have got a stupid circular just now, which says that credit is so bad, that's what the regulator feels, that if a supplier gives you 120 days credit, no, you can't, and you want to make a payment on 120th day, you have to take a special RBI permission, even in diamonds. Bullion, though, we cannot take a credit, everything is COD, COD, COD. So, these systems have to change. They have to recognize this industry as an affirmative good, not a necessary evil. And I think your expertise on it, whether we should treat it also as a pseudo currency. I think we'll leave that for the moment.
But I just want to stick to you and ask one or two more very pointed questions. All of us, पिछले 10 साल में हम बहुत बात कर रहे हैं बुलियन मार्केट में. India is a price taker. We are such a big importer. We should be setting prices. And therefore, should India be a price setter? What conditions have to be fulfilled for India to become a price setter? And क्या फायदा है if I become a price setter? मेरे लिए, हमारा देश के लिए, हमारा revenue के लिए, हमारे businessmen के लिए, what is the great advantage? That's a question which you should probably be.
मैं एक आपसे ये एग्जांपल, थैंक्स फॉर रिमाइंडिंग मी हिंदी, एक एग्जांपल पूछ रहा हूँ, सवाल पूछ रहा हूँ चंद्रशेखर जी, आप ज़्यादा जानते हो, लंदन करेंसी मार्केट में या फाइनेंस मार्केट में फंडिंग का फ्लो दूसरे जहां से कितना आता है? जेपी मॉर्गन जो आज नंबर 1 लेंडिंग बैंक इन करेंसी एंड गोल्ड है, one of the strongest bases that almost all the central banks in the world store the gold with them. आज हम टू वे ट्रेड कर सकते हैं और हम करेंगे तो हम लोग प्राइस सेटर होंगे, एंड वर्ल्ड का जो फ्लोटिंग स्टॉक जो करेंसी और कमोडिटी दोनों का, ये कमोडिटी का दोनों का होगा, वो इंडिया में हो सकता है और हमारा हैंडलिंग एंड सर्विसिंग एफिशिएंसी बेटर है। आज मैंने काफी फोरम पे ये चीज कहा है कि हम अगर अपने मुंबई में को देखें तो टू द लेफ्ट ऑफ अस एंड टू द राइट ऑफ अस इज मोर देन 1200 टन्स कंजप्शन मार्केट। तो दूसरी जगह कहाँ आप पाकिस्तान और गल्फ ले लीजिए और ये बाजू इंडिया थाईलैंड तक ले लीजिए, तो ये मेन कंजप्शन मार्केट है ये रीजन के। तो बॉम्बे वुड बी द बेस्ट स्टोरिंग एंड सर्विसिंग प्लेस।
Rajesh bhai, the first recommendation is here: free import and export trade in bullion. Is that right? आज export में restrictions है, import is free, but import there are customs duties and other restrictions. Remove all the restrictions on both import and export. That's a strong.
Yeah, that's the thing. And I would like you to comment later on whether it's a currency, treated as a currency. Nobody can.
Fine. But while on bullion, obviously we have. I want to go to Prithviraj with so much of domain knowledge, hands-on experience in handling bullion. There are two questions. One is, a lot of gold estimated at about 20,000 tons in our country. It could be 15, it could be 25,000, we don't know. But the ballpark number that comes out is 20,000 ton sona pada hai in various households, in various forms. That is becoming, that is substantially unproductive. So, do you have any suggestions that can be given to the new government? How do we take this hidden gold out? It could be partly accounted for. It could be substantially unaccounted. We don't know. But the point simply is that's आज तो unproductive है. उसे हम कैसे productive बना सकते हैं? उसके लिए क्या policy होना चाहिए? इसके बारे में आप जरा कराएं.
देखिए, पहले तो भारत में गोल्ड को एज ए कमोडिटीज के तरह से देखते हैं, जैसे कि इसको एक तरह से करेंसी नोट की जगह देखना चाहिए। जैसे आपने अभी गोल्ड डिपॉजिटरी स्कीम की बात की, हमने गवर्नमेंट को काफ़ी पॉलिसीज दी है कि आप इस तरह चेंज करो गोल्ड डिपॉजिटरी स्कीम, जिससे गोल्ड जो अनयूज गोल्ड है, जो आज हिंदुस्तान में आप 20,000 टन बता रहे हो, मेरे हिसाब से कहीं ज़्यादा है कि अगर आप 97 से देखोगे कि अभी तक गोल्ड जो RBI ने पॉलिसी जब ओपन करने के बाद में 97 टू टिल 2014 अभी तक तकरीबन 12,000 टन गोल्ड ऑफिशियली इंपोर्ट हो चुका है। तो गोल्ड हिंदुस्तान में अनऑफिशियली नहीं है, अनअकाउंटेड कहीं पे गोल्ड नहीं है। गोल्ड सब द कस्टम डोर पे होके हिंदुस्तान में आया। अब सवाल ये रहता है कि
इंटरप्शन में अब जो पिछले 10-12 साल में आया उसका नहीं बोल रहा हूँ, पुराना गोल्ड पड़ा। दैट इज द पॉइंट। या
सेकंड चीज हो रही है कि गोल्ड में जहाँ से अब आप डिपॉजिटरी की स्कीम बात कर रहे हैं, हमने काफी बैंक के साथ में बैठ के डिस्कस भी किया था कि इसको किस तरह बाहर लाना चाहिए। तो मेजर इश्यूज आते हैं कि हर्डल है कि जब तक आप गोल्ड को करेंसी में ट्रीट नहीं करोगे, जैसे आप बैंक में अकाउंट खुला लिए, गोल्ड अकाउंट है, आपने वहाँ पे डिपॉजिट किया, आपको दिल्ली में चाहिए, आप दिल्ली से निकाल सकते हो। तो हमने गवर्नमेंट को क्या, एक तो पहले अकाउंट आप ओपन कर लीजिए गोल्ड डिपॉजिटरी स्कीम जैसा, प्लस ज्वेलर्स के थ्रू गोल्ड को डिपॉजिट चाहिए। आज भी हाउस होल्ड जो वाइफ है या जो भी लेडी है, ओल्ड लेडी है, आज भी वो सेम ज्वेलर्स के पास भी दागिने आज भी वही बनाती है जो आज पिछले 50 साल से उसकी फैमिली जनरेशन टू जनरेशन बना है। तो कोई भी स्कीम ज्वेलर्स के थ्रू डिपॉजिट स्कीम बैंक्स में जाए, जिससे ज्वेलर्स को थोड़ा इंसेंटिव मिले, तो स्कीम को प्रमोट करेंगे। तो हमने गवर्नमेंट को ये भी एक स्कीम दी हुई है कि अनअकाउंटेड जो जिनके पास स्क्रैप ज्वेलरी है, जो यूज में नहीं आ रही है काफी मात्रा में या थोड़ी मात्रा में, जो भी आप ज्वेलर्स के थ्रू डिपॉजिट बैंक में कीजिए, आपको जब चाहिए तब आप उसको प्लेस कर सकते हो, आप उसको ले सकते हो और आपको थोड़ा बहुत इंटरेस्ट आ सकता है। अगर कोई भी इंस्ट्रूमेंट प्लेजेबल है या उसको आप सेलेबल कर सकते हो या ट्रांसफर कर सकते हो, तो उसका यूज होता है। तो लोगों को चाहिए कि हमें 6 महीने के बाद सब चाहिए तो सोना कभी भी मिल सकता है, तो हम डिपॉजिट करें। और सेकेंड चीज आ रही है रेगुलेटरी इश्यू। अभी नागपुर वाले को डिपॉजिट करना है स्टेट बैंक ऑफ इंडिया मुंबई में, तो ये ऑक्ट्रॉय का इश्यू आता है। जब वापस लेके जाता है तो ऑक्ट्रॉय का इश्यू आता है, फिर सेल्स टैक्स डिपार्टमेंट बोलते हैं कि इसके ऊपर आप दीजिए। तो कोई भी बैंक आज डिपॉजिट लेने को भी तैयार नहीं है। थोड़ा बहुत सिद्धि विनायक का है या तिरुपति बालाजी का जो गोल्ड है, बाकी उसके बाद में जो हाउस होल्ड के पास गोल्ड चला है उसके लिए गवर्नमेंट ने कोई भी ऐसी स्कीम भी अनाउंसमेंट नहीं की है कि जिससे गोल्ड आ सके। तो मेरे हिसाब से गवर्नमेंट को गोल्ड डिपॉजिटरी स्कीम खोलनी चाहिए। मैं नहीं कहता हूँ कि टेम्पल का गोल्ड आना चाहिए, उससे कोई जरूरत नहीं है, पर हाउस होल्ड के पास अनयूज गोल्ड काफी भारी मात्रा में 125 करोड़ की आबादी में अगर 10 ग्राम भी एक आदमी देता है तो काफी भारी मात्रा में हो जाता है।
Wonderful. बहुत बढ़िया. So this is the second recommendation. We need a gold deposit scheme with banks.
Yes.
And it has to be incentivized. That is important. और इसका जो final points होगा, nuances, details are different, are something to be worked out. But the thought is very clear. The recommendation is clear that we need to bring out gold which is lying unproductive in the walls and in the tijoris of household will have to be brought out and to be made productive. That's the thought. One more question. I remember 10 साल पहले China allowed foreign direct investment in gold prospecting. उसका बाद क्या हुआ 10 साल में? China today is the world's largest producer of gold, single largest producer of gold as a country. 400 odd tons of gold, and they import about 600 tons or 700 tons. Therefore, they are today big producer. So again, Prithviraj, do you think? I don't know what is the FDI policy for gold prospecting. Is it still does it exist on paper, or if it is not permitted, should we open up FDI in gold prospecting? आपको क्या लगता है? कुछ is there a possibility of some money flowing in, and is there any possibility of prospecting and ferreting out gold that's inside the earth?
देखिए, सबसे पहले तो गवर्नमेंट को अपने खुद की एक माइंड सेट करना पड़ेगा. आज भी जब गोल्ड का नाम आता है तो गवर्नमेंट के जो ब्यूरोक्रेट्स है उनके दिमाग में दाऊद इब्राहिम और वही याद आता है कि स्मगलिंग इज गुड होगा या कुछ भी होगा. पहली बात तो गवर्नमेंट को उसकी खुद की माइंड चेंज करना पड़ेगा कि गोल्ड होता है ना कि स्मगल गोल्ड होता है. हर चीज पे आप देखोगे अभी आज हाल ही में 10% ड्यूटी होने के बाद में स्मगलिंग काफी भारी मात्रा में बढ़ गई है. बट हम कहते हैं कि स्मगलिंग कहाँ बढ़ी है? कोई भी डोर है तो कस्टम से आ रहा है, पोर्ट है तो वहां पे भी कस्टम है, कहीं से भी है तो कस्टम डोर से होके आ रहा है. इसमें आपकी गलती है कि वो आपको बचा के लेके आ रहा है. अब एफडीआई क्या होता है? अब आप देखिए दुबई के अंदर गोल्ड लोन है, आई थिंक मे बी 1% पर है ना, और हिंदुस्तान पर है ना 1%. इट मीन लेस देन. In India, government does not allow to be a gold loan. Foreign suppliers are willing to give the gold loan at the interest rate of 1%, less than 1% per annum. But the regulatory issue is there. Gold, no 90 days with the OSD, the cash and nothing to add. When the government also take the FCNR deposit at the rate of 4%, and maybe it's if you calculate in the 3 years, almost go to 6%. And just the gold loan, it's almost gold is the 50 billion, the import figure is only the 40 to 50 billion. So we represent the government that you allow gold as a 360 days of a gold loan. Then the 40 or 50 billion dollars is the rate of 1.5%. It's the FUP after the 1 year, and it's also the revolving. But government does not allow because of gold. So I think government has to regularize each and everything. There is thousands of hurdles in the gold. The policy, government has to regularize the single door and open the policies.
And 1 second, it's okay. No, the well taken point is well taken. मैं बोल रहा हूँ foreign direct investment, FDI in gold mining. China allowed 10 years ago, and they have seen results. Should India allow FDI in gold mining? Do you think there's an opportunity for foreign investors to come invest in gold mining? Do we have any information about what should I call the hidden khazana inside the earth in India? Is there any expectation, forecast of gold availability within India?
Yes.
We had only one gold mine. वो भी बंद हो गया. We probably produce 4-5 ton. We consume 1,000 tons. We produce less than 10 tons of gold in our country, which is a sad state of affairs. Is there a mauka for us to replicate the China model and seek foreign direct investment, open up mining, prospecting for gold?
Yes, मेरे हिसाब से गवर्नमेंट को एफडीआई को डायरेक्ट इन्वेस्टमेंट में अलाउ कर देना चाहिए, बिकॉज इंडिया इज अ ह्यूज अपॉर्चुनिटी. देयर इज only the problem is environment problem. I think India have more than $3 trillion reserve. So I think government have to must open the FDI policy. उन्हें खोल देनी चाहिए, उन्हें इन्वेस्टमेंट करना चाहिए. हम गवर्नमेंट को काफी बार कह चुके हैं कि आप जो कस्टम ड्यूटी
डिक्रीज करते हो 2%, 4% से एटलीस्ट पुट 4,000, 5,000 crore into R&D to develop Indian market. इंडिया में काफी खनिज पदार्थ है, लोग कहते हैं कि हिंदुस्तान सोने की चिड़िया थी और है, तो उसको एक बार देखना चाहिए. अगर FDI इन्वेस्टमेंट होता है तो इसमें कोई दिक्कत नहीं है.
Okay. So let's linger a little more on gold and check with Bhargav what are his views on his thoughts on FDI in gold. What do you think?
On mining, I think we have the same permissions which we have for all other commodities or all other metals. So there is no direct ban on prospecting for gold mining.
Okay.
We have seen some second level players doing it.
Right.
But as you were saying earlier in something as when we were sitting together, the state and center issues and the general mining issues are a problem. But we have seen lot of interest and prospecting level. Almost all the big names in the world have looked at India. Some have good results, some have gone back because of localized problems. But it is there. The infrastructure may not be there, but the legislation is in place.
Alright, thank you. So the third recommendation, Rajesh, why is he here? I don't say, okay, it doesn't matter. I'm making note. Third recommendation, permit FDI, foreign direct investment in gold prospecting. I think these are wonderful suggestions. I'm now going to turn to actually Dr. Gopal Naik. He's done a lot of research and we've shared platforms on a number of occasions. Dr. Sir, what very broad reforms would you like to see in the commodity space in particular? And because our friends have already talked about the physical market for precious metals, would you comment on, for example, agriculture commodities? What kind of reforms do you think are required in the physical market so that the futures market will be able to capture the right kind of price discovery and will allow right kind of price risk management? Yeah.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, everybody. Very lately, we sort of realized that we need to take care of physical markets as well in order to improve the futures market. So we have been now thinking about how to improve physical markets for agricultural commodities. Though there was some thinking independently done earlier, so as early as the 1990s, in terms of coming up with a modified APMC Act and so on, model APMC Act. You may be knowing that APMC Acts of different states actually control the physical markets of agricultural commodities. These acts have set up as many as 7,500 or 600 agriculture markets all over the country, and they have not been doing well over a period of time. While the technology has improved, many processes have improved world over, our markets have really not been modernized, and we are really paying a very high price because of that. Few reforms that are required in these markets are, number one is we have to allow for competition in these markets. Right now they are restricted, the traders, number of the licenses they give it to the traders are restricted, and therefore outsiders cannot purchase and so on.
Talking about APMC money.
APMC, yes. APMC, the changes that are required in mandi markets. One is definitely allowing others to come in and actually compete in those local markets. In Karnataka, there was a committee set up. I was also a member of the committee, and we suggested that they have started implementing it already, and they are seeing the results, that there are a lot more competition in those local markets. Then the second important one is actually warehousing facilities. But warehousing facilities, when we say warehousing facilities, everybody says, especially the government sector, says, no, we have quite a bit of warehousing facility, and we have been providing finances for warehousing and so on. But I think the kind of warehousing that we require now is quite different. We need to have a warehouse which can actually give warehouse receipts, which essentially says that once a farmer or a trader keeps his
produce in the warehouse owner should be able to guarantee that quality for a duration of 2 months, 3 months, 4 months and so on. That means you need to understand how to store these different agricultural commodities for the particular length of time. So the warehouses should be built that way. The warehouse management has to change. It cannot be somebody who is just looking after something else yesterday and today you start looking at the warehouses. So therefore warehouse management has to change drastically. And with that, we can actually solve many problems. Many problems like once you have a warehouse receipt system, the farmers can bring their produce and keep it in the warehouses and get a warehouse receipt system. With that, they can get a pledge loan. So therefore, there is no distress rate. And they can wait for a right opportunity to sell their produce. And once you accept it in the warehouse, there will also be grading. The quality evaluation will be there. And once quality evaluation is there, then it is very easy to trade at long distances. If there is an e-trading facility platform is there, then it becomes very easy to trade through the e-trading once the grading system is there. So therefore, once farmer brings his produce to the warehouses and gets a warehouse receipt, then he need not come back again. He can just sell these produce whenever he wants, sitting it from his house itself. So that kind of facility is something which is very much required. Unfortunately, if you look at the kinds of warehousing facility that is there now in urban and rural area, they are also quite different. Even the urban area warehouses do not satisfy the requirement of a modern warehousing system. Okay. But there is also a lot of difference between the urban warehousing and the rural warehousing, where we actually need excellent facility of warehousing in rural area. So that's one of the major problem as of now. And there are these warehouse receipt systems have been talked about. There is Act amendment, Act passed, and so on. But still, we are very slow in implementation. Partly because it also requires that there is a proper assaying system. So we have not had very good assaying system except for our export purpose, which is a very small portion of our total domestic market. So therefore, unless we are able to implement proper assaying system in all commodities, we will also not be able to have a various receipt system. So that's where the problem comes in, and therefore, unless the government takes serious steps in order to make sure that there are assaying facilities created and also proper standards, grade standards. Today, I think if you look at the different commodities, there are all these different grade standards being talked about. But we need to come up with one standard for the whole country, and a standard which is acceptable not only in the domestic market but also internationally. So it has to be sort of compatible with the international markets. That's very important. So if the government is able to build this ecosystem, especially the grade standards development and assaying facility, warehouse receipt system, and changes in the APMC Acts in order to provide for one is trading licenses for others, outsiders, and so on, as well as allowing for contract farming. In fact, in many states, even contract farming is in a way illegal. So we need to relax those